Hey there, welcome to my 1968 Dodge rebuild video series. Today I'm going to look into my transmission to see what kind of shape it's in. It's been sitting out in the, this one's been sitting out in the dirt for about 15 years. So I'm going to pop the cover and take a look inside and see what we got. One thing that's got me a little bit concerned is it looks like it's been into because there's orange gasket making material between the tail shaft and the main housing. So it looks like it's been into before. What I expect to see inside is the gears are probably rusted on any part that's not been submerged in oil. So we'll see if that's the case. I'm going to pull the top cover open and start from there. Real quick, right here is the vent. When you run across the vent, kind of give it a twist. Differentials have vents also. Give it a twist to kind of clear out any dirt that's got caught in there. The vent keeps pressure from building up inside the gearbox. And it is important to keep it clear. An example is on my motorhome that I rebuilt. All the work I did to it, including replacing the differential and welding spring perches on it and everything else, I never checked to make sure the vent was clear. And somewhere along my travels, I found it started leaking out the pinion seal. I crawled underneath there, wiggled that vent around and cleared it up, and it's been several years since and it's never leaked. I've got the top cover off. There's some rust and it's kind of filthy from sitting. And I've kind of rolled on the input shaft a little bit already, and you'll see coming around that there's rust on part of the gears. That's a part of the gears that's been out of the transmission, out of the fluid, and this one's rusted pretty good. As of right now, I'm not going to get excited about it. This is called a top loader transmission because of the cover to access everything's on the top. This one has side mount shift linkage because it's a 3 on the tree. 3-speed column shifter, and that's something we wanted to maintain. So I'm going to roll it around. I don't see any busted gears. I do see some nasty rust. This is probably going to make a little groan as it goes around, but so third gear is a 1-to-1 ratio. What that means is that one turn of the input shaft should equal one turn of the output shaft. Most of your non-overdrive transmissions are that way. We can calculate the ratios of first and second by putting in this respective gear. Like that's first. I can mark the input shaft and mark the output shaft. And let's say it's 3 point something to 1. So the input shaft would turn 3 point however many times to 1 revolution of the output shaft. And that's how you get your gear reduction. And then second gear would be something between that and 1-to-1. And then third gear would be 1-to-1. I think I'll take her apart, clean her up, clean everything up, and put her back together. Bear with me while I tear her down. Big problem with tearing something down like this is a lot of these bolt holes are blind. I can feel back behind this stud, for instance, this bolt hole, it's not drilled all the way through. So if I was to put a longer bolt like this one in there accidentally, this bolt could very well bottom out in the bottom of the hole. And I think it's tight, meaning the cover is sucked up against the gasket like it's supposed to be, but it's not. So putting the right bolt in the right hole is actually an important thing and very easily overlooked. Again, I should be wearing eyeglasses, eye protection. Looking at the roller bearing here for the input shaft. This is the input shaft. This is the splines the clutch rides on. This stub right here goes into the pilot bearing that's either inside the flywheel or in the crankshaft. A lot of times thickness of gaskets could be important, because let's say the out tail shaft, if the gasket's changed, and then your bearing could actually be riding a teeny bit in, which may not matter, but it could matter. So think of things like that. And if I could pop that out now. Look at that now, once they pull out. So that means it's going to separate inside the case here. It's a real machine fit in there, so. Needs a little persuasion. I'm allowed to have a bunch of stuff fall apart here in a minute. Input shaft. Ooh. We've got bearings inside there. Not real careful, then bearings could fall out and roll around everywhere and be lost. This bearing here feels real good. It doesn't need replaced, and I'll leave it. This is a synchronizer. This is what's made to, this other stuff is part of the other synchronizer is falling apart in there on me. This is part of the synchronizer. It's got this taper to it, and it's brass. What it does is, when you go to shift gears, your output shaft is spinning at a different rate than your input shaft. And if you try to mesh the gears up into each other like that, they would grind. The synchronizer absorbs some friction, and as it tightens up, it causes the input, the driven gear, and the driving gear to match RPMs as this slides into the one gear, and that's how it's synchronized. How's that for not making sense? It looks good to me. It doesn't got any real shiny wear spots or anything, so as far as I'm concerned, that looks pretty good. So perhaps what I need to do is turn this on the end and get the output shaft, the tail shaft, taken off. Just bumping it inward, and it popped out. There's my speedometer drive. You can see that it's dished. So it's worn real bad. It's in really terrible shape. It's also got RTV on the, where it goes in, seals into the housing. There's an O-ring on here. All you should need is that O-ring. You shouldn't need that RTV. It's got a machine surface where that O-ring rides. I've got the housing loose. Let me slide my safety glasses over my eyeballs. Give it a couple love taps. Do that. It should pop out. There we go. Shouldn't be anything in that housing other than the tail shaft seal. Truck's running in neutral. The input shaft is spinning. And this gear is spinning a gear on the counter shaft. And the counter shaft's at the bottom of the transmission. And the counter shaft is spinning all the time. So that is also slinging oil up into the rest of the gears, and it's getting bathed in oil. Keeps everything lubricated. Oh, let's talk about first gear. Since first gear is a sliding gear. First and reverse slides. When you shift it, it actually mating gears down in the bottom of the this gear is mating with the gear in the bottom of the transmission. In the case of reverse, it's mating with the gear in the side of the transmission, which is mated with the gear in the bottom. So that extra gear causes the output shaft to spin backwards. So that's how you accomplish reverse. Put it back in neutral. That's neutral. It's not mated with any gear right now. Of course, everything's kind of flopping apart, so you can't see. Now, do I need to remove some snap rings? And Don't know that I do. I'm gonna try to pry this out. I would think this bearing would leave that case. When you're hammering on hard things such as bearings, and bearings are real hard, by the way. They're gonna chip more than they're gonna mar. And them chips flying off can get embedded into your body. I know a while back I could take a magnet and run it across my arm. And there were several spots on my arm where that magnet would pick my skin up. Once I slide all this apart, these gears should lift out of here. Then I should be able to do whatever I need to with the shift forks. This is the machine surface part of the case. There's a snap ring right here. Get this snap ring out. That bearing should slide out. Again, I'm putting my safety glasses on because I'm dealing with snap rings, and suckers can be wicked. All right, we're starting to get it to move. Work it around. There. Now, theoretically, I should be able to pull on this bearing, should come on out. The shaft should come with it. But everything's gonna be all snug, which is good. I'm gonna take the back end of my hammer, tap the shaft from this. My synchronizers keep getting me in a bind by flopping around. It's moving. Doing a real good job coming out. It's just very close tolerance, so it's probably going to need some love taps all the way out. It's going to drop in a minute. There it goes. At least start taking pieces out this end, hopefully. I'd like to get that synchronizer out of there. The counter shaft is in its way, but it's actually clear. All this should start coming off the end. Look at that. Sometimes you just gotta wiggle and jiggle it just right. Now, it'd be a good idea to put things on your table in some sort of order so you know what part goes where. It actually should start off with this brass piece. As I take everything off the shaft, lay it out on the table in some sort of crazy order there. There's my shift fork. Another synchronizer ring. I'm trying not to bend up the snap ring in case it winds up being the one part that's no longer available. There, snap ring. I should put it in some sort of order on the table here. Gear cluster and synchronizer parts are coming out. I'm going to stick my finger underneath here in case there's a roller bearings that's going to fall off on my hand. Okay, there's no bearings in there. It's a machine tolerance that it rides on. It's got cutouts. There's cutouts on the, here's the tail shaft. Tail shaft and main shaft are all the same assembly. And these cutouts allow oil to lubricate between the two. You can see why oil level and not running it dry is so important. If there was be no oil in there, that would seize up. And you'd waste some parts for sure. Trying to get this gear out of here. first gear, first in reverse. I am going to stop for a minute, grab my camera. Man, my hands are dirty. This poor camera's gonna catch hell. I'm gonna hold this gear so I can see that shoulder is in the back side, so I don't accidentally put it in backwards. Shift fork. Actually, these shift forks, you want to inspect them. You want to see how much wear they right up against the gear or whatever they're pushing. That feels really good. I don't feel any wear. The wear on the shaft would be the same. It doesn't look good, but it feels okay. Here's the other one. This one wear surface are inside these grooves. I'm just eyeballing it, but I don't see any evidence of wear. It actually looks really good. These are little shift shafts for the shifter that are sticking out of the transmission. If you move them, you'll feel them click. Okay? Those are detents. This is attached to the shaft. You see the notches in this piece? They're right in against, there's obviously, there's probably a ball or this silver piece right in here is a detent, but there may be a ball right in at the end of the silver piece. And they're both by sharing the same spring. But you see the notches. You got 3 notches. One for engaged in one direction, which would be, let's just say that's most likely, that would probably be 3rd gear. It's in its detent. Now it's in neutral detent. Now it's in 2nd gear detent. Then you get on this one, you'll have the same thing. Okay, the fact that this one's in gear is probably preventing this one from moving. That's a pretty nifty setup they got there. That keeps you from putting it in 2 gears at the same time. So that detent's important, and this seems to be working good. Now, this is the counter shaft right here. And the gears look really good on it. It just floats in there. There's nothing, snap rings or anything like that holding gears on the shaft. It floats. The input from the input gear meshes with this front gear, and this turns all the time as long as your clutch is out. And it's always slinging oil. And that's why towing, if you to tow this truck a long distance, and I have to look at that output shaft real good, but chances are the gears are floating on the output shaft in neutral. So if you're towing with the engine off, then your output shaft is spinning, but your input shaft's not spinning. And since everything's in neutral, this shaft is sitting and not turning. So if your output shaft is not turning this shaft, then you are not slinging oil and you'll burn your output shaft up. So that's why before you tow something a long distance, you want to know if it's capable to be flat towed. That's called flat towing. That goes with, they call it a dinghy tow behind a motorhome. It's where you're just towing the car, all 4 wheels of the car on the ground. Is it capable of doing that? Is the transmission suitable for that? And in this case, it wouldn't be. Now, in a couple of days, I'm helping my son move a car across country, and it's a little BMW, and he said he's done the research and it can flat tow. So we're putting it on a car dolly, the 2 front wheels on the car dolly, but it's rear-wheel drive. So if it can flat tow, it should be fine. It'll just, that rear output will spin and lubricate. If not, you're gonna burn the output up. shafts out. There's a woodruff key. This is important. I didn't see that first. There's a woodruff key, goes in that slot right there. Goes like this. And there's a machine spot inside the case. You probably can't see it. And this key slides in and only goes so far. And then when I bolt the tail shaft on, that keeps the shaft from going the other way. So that's what holds that in place. I got a spacer on the front that just came out. Uh-oh, uh-oh. Uh-oh. So I need to lay all this out on the table in order, or I'm going to be in trouble. Especially if it takes me a couple weeks to put it back together. The only gear left in here is reverse idler. It feels good. I'm not taking it out. It looks good. Anyways, I'll be cleaning it up and I'll do another video, put it back together. Thank you for watching this video. Hopefully this series on my D100, 1968 D100 will flow pretty good and y'all guys will get a lot out of it and enjoy it. So anyways, you love life and learning new things, go aimless.com. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you subscribe.